This week's channel message from the angels is long but worth it. It is a message about changing how our reality is based on fear. And I think that's something that we can all agree is so deep and close to our hearts and what we want for this world and for ourselves. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. And by that, I mean I go into a deep meditative state. And from there, I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. And I go a little higher. I connect at the angelic realm. And I bring through healing and information that I share with you guys here on YouTube. So yeah, an extra special welcome to those of you who are new subscribers. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for subscribing. It does make a big difference to the channel and to me. So thank you. So today's message comes from my retreat this past weekend. We had so twice a year I do a retreat in person, a weekend retreat, and I love these retreats because the stuff that comes through is just mind blowing for me. I love the experience and the energy that's held in a group. We tend to get really deep and profound messages and visitations. So today's message is from that. It was from from those of you who were there, it's from our Sunday morning message, the one that happened there. So message number 5, Sunday morning. And it's the first part of that message before the healing. And it is all about and we hear all the time some of these, I guess you could call them like spiritual truths about like living in the moment and like heart over the head and stuff like that. But a lot of times those can be vague. They can be concepts that are really, really intangible. And it's something that we know is true, but we don't really know how to live it. And in this message, they go deep into the profoundness of those messages and talk about the ripples of what that impacts for us in terms of how we manifest in the world. Like, are we manifesting from the past or the future? About what it means for us, just even in terms of the expression of our divine presence, of who we are into the now and into the moment. So this is, like I said, a long message. And it took me, I had to spend a lot of extra time with this one because it's deep, it's very profound, and it's a little complicated. But I was able to break it down, I feel like, on the discussion. So I will do the same format while I share the message with you first, and then I will break it down paragraph by paragraph. And I think in that it will become crystal clear for you. And I think it is definitely worth the time that it takes to I think the message, this whole video, I think is about a little over an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. Totally worth it. Because you will, I feel like this message changes us. So for those of you who are interested in my program, Soul Convergence, we start this Saturday, and I'm super excited to begin. It is the people I have been doing the practice sessions with, their dreams, the shifting that is coming up is amazing and transformative. So I'm very, very excited. For those of you who are thinking about it, if you have questions, just let me know. You can always email me, support@anntucker.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the program. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoy the message. They say, the dearth of knowing, the assumptions you have made, the questions that fall and interpose themselves into your mind and create for yourself a dissonance from your reality. These are the stoppings and the stomping grounds of what it is to be alive, to be in memory, to exist in this time and place, to feel that you are working in a context without knowing, where you are guessing, where you are formulating answers, where you are proposing solutions that carry no weight, that have no forbearance on what you are achieving. The mind and its inner workings form a template and a context based on past knowings that have no fabric to them, no ability to conform to the materials at hand. Thus, in the construct, what you construe is usually not happening. We speak to you, and thus to all of humanity, at the formation of the mind and its understandings, of how it leaves you blanketed in a snowy resonance and vibration of fear and its culmination of disempowerment, and how it lingers in the fabric and the context of your reality. You are in and among changing times, and the reference point that you have that stays with you is one of having many dreams beyond fulfillment, of having thoughts and plans that you have laid that do not come to play. The sense that you are and hold the reins, the sense that you have that you hold the reins, but they control something you have no awareness of, as though the construct of reality is disconnected from the instrumentation with which you would drive it. And we speak to this, to the knowing concern of the mind of humanity. We speak to this in friendship, in guardianship, in the trust you have that may form a bond between us. We settle in your hearts a destiny to perform, a sense of who you are and will be. Your reality conforms to this not knowing. The sense of self and feeling, the performance of who you are, cannot abide to the prayers of a mind that follows only what it guards in its rear view mirror. The construct of your thinking are a limitation, a bondage, a reality that exists, however you may find it, as something that finds no guidance in the truth of who you are. This beholds you in the semblance of one who seems to be teaching, but is in fact one who is merely unbinding the truth and the harmony that exists already in the heart that is within you. We hold you in the context of not knowing. We hold you and guard you in the sense of self as adrift and free-flowing, in the harmony that rides within you. The blessings that conform to this existence will be found here, not in the mind frame and the concepts and the extension of your knowing. We hold you in the bondage of familiarity. We hold you in the bondage of what has formed you. The sense of self as being honored for your knowledge. The sense of self as having been called into the task of doing and performing based on what you calculate and know. The memory of life as having been dictated by the constructs and endowments of science. The awareness of the reverence that has been given to the task of understanding, as though this is the formation that guides humanity, as though this is the foundation of civilization, as though this is what will save you. It shall not. It is a construction based on falsehood and false premise. It is a construction based on observation which is limited. It is a construction which is inherently tormented by the followership of those who are not questioning. And thus we guide you to the reference point of what matters, of the center self, of the soul within, of the sense of self as harboring the greatest gift of presence, the awareness that your heart does beat to the truth of your own knowledge, and all that rises within you can now conform to the presence and the reality that is passing in front of you, and need no claim upon that frame of reference which has been designed within falsehood. We say the claim that lands within the frame of mind and mindscape, it's not that it's not useful. It plays a part, a role, a dance which you have made, but it comes as servant, not to be served. It comes as gifted. It comes to be used in the service of the heart. The heart must play your name. The heart must guide you, must serve you, must be the instrument of choice. Within, it harbors a distrust formed in the reality of being human, which is that all you have planned for often turns to dust, and fear settles in the hopes. And the guardianship you have claimed on the turn of life and prospect, you wish to be made more in control of that which exists, to cling tighter to the instrument of guidance, to hold that harness more fully, you feel, is the solution that will unfold, to be more into the construct of the mind, to make a plan and find it play exactly as you have made. This, you may feel, is the way forward, to find your manifestations more guided, more real. And we say that the folly of the day is to count upon your planning and to feel that they are made in divine prospect, when in fact whatever is claimed by the mind itself is waylaid, misshapen, misguided. It lacks the truth and the integrity of what is you within it. It takes its claim upon the mind of all things, of all ways of knowing that are human, that are in bondage, that are claimed by the greater powers that overrule yourself. It sits within the construct of a culture, a way of saying and being and doing that has no reference to what is the truth of you. It is founded in beliefs and concepts that are towering over the individuality of the soul and its prospects. It shrouds you in the and clouds you and disfigures your concepts. Thus, we say the way of transformation and completion is to set aside those dialogues internal, the way you planned and formed your life, your way, to set them down and to make the fullness of your day, of your life, of your reality come to terms moment by moment in the capture of the day, in the flowing and fluidity of presence, relying not on what you planned, but only on what you play. We hold you and your heart's dears. We hold you in the complexity of these notions, in these thoughts. For fear does rise within the context of not knowing. There is within the self the sense that you must rise to the challenge. You must make plans. You must make way. You must be prepared. And fear, yes, does lay here. We hold you in this knowingness, accepting this graceful presence of your light. For it does say to itself, I am fearful. I am fearful. I wish to have the knowingness. I wish to know where I am guided in advance, so that I may be prepared. I wish to have at my side all the resources I require. I wish to feel barricaded into my safety, where all that is cannot affect me. We say that should we comply and provide all that you would require, there can be no growth for you. The sense of self is always protected, as always in the salve of all that you require, with no conflict and no construction of difficulty, puts you in a place of absolute peace. And within that space there is no difference, there is no challenge, there is nothing to conform to, there is no method by which you can extend yourself to embrace this life and discover who you are. Thus, the challenge of performance in this existence is to live in flow, to approach this life as a new discovery, as a new puzzle that must be played each and every day, to see within it that your guidance comes in the process of the performance, that the instructions, that the methods, that which you require will be made available upon the discovery of the need, not in the anticipation of it. The fluidity of your form, the looseness of your grip, the ability to move with the flexibility of a dancer, the sense of yourself as light on your feet, as transparent, as though all you are can move with grace from one thing to the next. It flows through you, around you, among you, and you are of it. And all the world comes to your service. All the world conforms to your knowing, to your desire, to your import. It all comes to your calling, for you are it, and it is of you, and your essence becomes fluid, and here you are and found your worth. All right, I told you it was a long one, but a good one. A really good one. I love this message. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I'm excited that the geekiness in me is like so excited to dig into the, I know you're saying huge. I know, right? I feel it too. So yeah, I feel like this is just a super exciting, I feel like I said, concepts that we have heard, but that we understand in part, like we understand in a vague way. And I feel like they're taking their time to just draw this out and let us feel and kind of walk us through what this really means. And especially I think it's so important because this is the change we're at. Like this is the moment where we're switching out of this way of being into a new way of being. And they're trying to say, this is the path, like this is how we do it. And Mike says, the fear of the loss of the false claim that the mind is. Mine to do as I wish is now no true or sustainable to uphold. That I think I understood that last part. Did you mean to say mind instead of mine? Yeah. Yeah, or the mind is mine to do with. Oh, yeah, the mind is your, exactly, that the mind is the slave to the heart. Exactly. And you say, can't wait for the translation. That one lost me. I can totally understand that one on this one. Because I took some time with it, and we will break it down and it will make perfect sense. But it definitely takes, like, you just take space with this one because it's deep. And you're saying, woo! You say, wow, it is poetry. So glad I made it to the live. Welcome. So glad you're here. So yeah, they do speak beautifully. And it is amazing to me because when you hear the recording of this session, so this was done, like I said, at our last retreat, and it comes out like a mile a minute. Like they're just do, you know what I mean? They pause and they do their thing, but it just comes out. It amazes me that they just they think so fast. It amazes me. They amaze me. Yeah. Because it must be that they have this all planned out in advance and then they come and share it with us. And I'm like, oh, they're so amazingly brilliant. But they probably are reading it. Angels reading their preconceived message that they were going to share with us. You say, this is so important. I love it. Yeah. Hey, Myrna. I think so too. I know. I'm really excited about it. And I think it is extremely fitting because, that's definitely like part of my wounding was moving from the heart to the head, that I navigated from my head. I would say my heart was very, very closed for the first large part of my life, really until I had my awakening. I was navigating from my head. That's a common wound. It's a very common wound that we feel we are safer there, right? Closing the heart because the heart gets hurt when we're little. So anyway, I'm sure there's lots of you who are going to be like, this is speaking right to you because it's, and even if not, even if you are heart led, if you find your wounds on the other side, it is still like a better understanding of our culture and what's expected of us and the culture that we're all operating within, I think is what they're really speaking to here. Patty's saying, morning, Ann. I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to process after the retreat. So much to process right now equals growth. Yeah, me too. So, and Patty, if you're just joining in, this was from session 5 from Sunday morning is when this was from at the retreat. So this is the first half. And if you recall at the end, they did a healing. So we're just covering the information, the first piece of that message. All right, so let's go ahead and break it down and paragraph by paragraph. And I think it will make it, because it's when you do, it becomes really, really clear and very impactful. All right, they go on, they start off, they say, the dearth of knowing. The dearth is like the lack of knowing. It's like there's not having, dearth is like none, like having absolutely no idea, the dearth of knowing, right? So not having any idea, right? The dearth of knowing, the assumptions you have made, the questions that fall and interpose themselves into your mind and create for yourself a dissonance from your reality. These are the stoppings and the stomping grounds of what it is to be alive. So they're saying this is the condition that we are all living in right now, that this is what it is to be human right now. What is it to be alive as a human right now? It is to have no idea what's really going to happen. That's the dearth of knowing, to have no concept, like we're just all guessing, kind of saying that this might happen, it might not happen. We can try to predict and stuff like that, but we really don't know. And then the second thing, the assumptions that you have made, right? This is where we think we have answers, right? Where we are assuming things based on past experience, right? So we're working a lot of our life is structured by our assumptions we assume stuff about who we are. We assume things about who other people are. We make assumptions about what our life is going to look like. And these are all based on expectations we form by looking at what happens around us, by our families, by our culture. We have these expectations. Like think about the assumptions that like all of our teenagers had in the world heading into COVID, that they were going to have a certain experience of high school, or kids had a certain assumption about what that was going to be. And then none of those assumptions were met, right? So we have the dearth of knowing. We have no concept. We're guided by all these assumptions that may or may not be accurate. And then the questions that fall and interpose themselves into your mind. So that would be like the way that we overthink, right? The busy mind that comes between. To interpose means comes between and interfere, right? That intrude. So it's the intruding the mind, all of the busy mind that the questions, right? Constant going through and trying to overthink things that interpose into our mind and create for us a dissonance from our reality. So the dissonance is like separating. It's an incongruous, where we're in disagreement with our reality, in other words, what they're trying to get at here is that we don't know what's going to happen. We have a bunch of assumptions, what we think are going to happen. And then our busy mind is going through and processing, and we're realizing none of what we actually expected to happen actually happens. So we end up feeling lost and separated from our reality. So in one paragraph, that's kind of, they're saying this is what it is to be human. What it is to be human is to feel like we're trying super hard to anticipate what's going to happen and finding that we're not very good at it and that life surprises us and we feel like we are not in control. In a nutshell, I think that's what they're trying to say. And that not feeling in control makes us feel scared. Does that make sense? So in a nutshell, I think that is, and they're going to elaborate on that, right? But that is in a nutshell, they're saying that's what it is to be human, is to feel like we don't know what's going to happen, to have a bunch of assumptions that aren't met, and it makes us freak out and we get scared. So in a nutshell, that is what it is to be alive. And they're saying that's kind of dark. It's not all that bad, right? Like there's a lot of beautiful moments that we have, but they're trying to say this is the challenge that they're addressing in this conversation. They're saying to be in memory. So in other words, they're right here by saying to be in memory. They're talking about that we are living all these assumptions and stuff that we make are based on memory, based on things we expect because we remember how it was in the past, that we're working from the past. And they're going to elaborate on that too. They say to be existing in this time and place, to feel that you are working in a context without knowing, that you are where you are guessing, where you are formulating answers, where you are proposing solutions that carry no weight. So this is the feeling that we can be like, okay, I'm going to have this huge plan. And then you go ahead and you launch and you start trying to do it. And it just doesn't turn out. You buy a house and you think you have this image in your mind of what it's going to be like. And then you move in and discover that it has all these problems or that the neighbors are crummy or that there's something that's disappointing or something that's hard. It's not what you thought. Right? And there's this feeling, that's the dissonance, where you feel like, wait a minute, I thought it was going to be this and it's not that. And then you feel like it shakes your guidance. It brings in fear. It shakes your confidence. It gives you the feeling of like, I'm guessing. I don't really know what's happening. I'm just navigating in the dark is what it feels like. I think that's what they're trying to say here, right? Where you're formulating answers, where you're proposing solutions that carry no weight. It's like, wait, didn't anybody consult me? I didn't want that, right? That's the feeling, right? And then they say that have no forbearance on what you are achieving. So this is the challenge that we're facing right now in the current context of being human. All right, they go on to say, the mind and its inner workings form a template and a context based on past knowings. So this is saying, how do we come up with these assumptions? Based on past knowings, right? It's based on past knowings that have no fabric to them, no ability to conform to the materials at hand. Thus, in the construct, what you construe is usually not happening. So this paragraph is deep. Okay. I think it is. So what they're saying here is that, so the way that we think, the mind and its workings form a template. So we come up with our thoughts and our thinking. We come up with a template and a context. So we come up with our expectations, right? This is what we expect to happen, but it's based on past knowings, right? That have no fabric to them. So what is a past knowing? Where does your past knowing exist? Where is the past right now? Can we go visit the past? Can we go to the past right now and make a sandcastle or make a dinner, right? Can we go to the past and make anything? We can't, because the past doesn't actually exist. The past has nothing concrete or physical about it. It exists only in our mind. So it's actually in our imagination. The past is based on, it's like imagination that's been written down like a book and we're just reading it, but it's not in the moment. It has nothing physical attached to it. So they're saying that we are creating from that when we create, we're drawing on the past, which is not attached to anything physical. So we are manifestors, and we are trying to manifest from something that has no physical properties to it. So it's like trying to create from bubbles. like how do you build something out of bubbles? It just, there's no there. There's nothing to grab onto. So you can't actually create from it. Whatever you create from air is air, right? There's just nothing there to grab onto. So we are trying to create from past knowings that have no fabric to them, no ability to conform to the materials at hand. So where are the materials? They're at hand. They're in the now, where we're existing right now. That's where the physical stuff is. We have to create our energy has to impact our physical surroundings, right? The physical stuff around us, the material. That's where energy is. And that's where we ripple out. Imagine you're rippling out in your imagination, and all that's going to ripple is air. It's going to ripple the bubbles, nothing. If you ripple out here in the present reality, it's colliding with all the electrons and stuff that are actually around you, and it creates something. So that's what they're saying here. So they say, thus, in the construct, what you construe is not usually happening. So the reason it's not happening is because we are creating in the past. We're creating in a context where there's nothing physical, right? That's a mind blower. Does that make sense? Is that clear, you guys? I know that's a lot to wrap our heads around. You're saying, Teresa says, make total sense. I don't know if that was a recent comment. So give me a new thumbs up if that makes sense. You're saying you bought a house that came with a mouse, but no mind did you give the mouse who was there long before said house. Cute. Thank you. Yeah. So give me a thumbs up if that makes sense about that we're creating from the past and the past has nothing physical about it. So if we're trying to manifest, when we manifest, it's like we are gathering materials and making something out of it. But if there's no materials in the past, it doesn't create anything. Does that make sense? You're saying thumbs up. Okay, great. All right, awesome. You're saying it makes sense. Fantastic. Okay. All right, so next paragraph, they say, we speak to you and thus all of humanity at the formation of the mind and its understandings, of how it leaves you blanketed in a snowy resonance and vibration of fear and its culmination of disempowerment. So they're saying that feeling we have, a feeling like we don't know what's going on in the world, that we make plans that don't happen, we have a lot of dreams that we don't seem to be able to fulfill, that they say comes from living in the mind, that it is a symptom and a result of living in the mind, and that it culminates in, so there's a vibration to it because of the fact that we feel like we're working so hard, making these plans, thinking so hard, trying to make something that's going to happen. It doesn't happen. That makes us feel out of control, which gives us a ton of fear. And the culmination of that fear is the sense of disempowerment, where we start to believe that we're not creators, where we start to believe we have no impact on our reality, right? That's the culmination. Like that's what it is to be living in this trap that humans are in right now, right? So this is deep. Okay. They go on to say, the vibration of fear and its culmination in disempowerment and how it lingers in the fabric and the context of your reality. So this is pervasive. Like this is the state of being right now as a human. And I mean, why do you think we are all so addicted to the next great answer? You know what I mean? There's so many people out there pitching take this nutritional supplement and it will solve your problems, or take this whatever it is and it will solve. We are all looking for an answer outside of ourselves because we feel like we're out of control. Right? And so we feel like what we're doing isn't working. We're looking outside of ourselves for experts to solve the problem that we don't seem to be able to solve because we're in a state of in the mind, which results in living in fear. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. They go on to say, you are in and among changing times. And the reference point you have that stays with you is one of having many dreams beyond fulfillment, of having thoughts and plans that you have laid that do not come to play. So this is what we were talking about. Making plans and feeling like our plans don't seem to have any impact on our reality, feeling out of control, right? The sense that you are and hold the reins, but that they control something you have no awareness of. So it's like we're pulling on these reins, we're doing all this work, and it's like, wait a minute, what are these reins even attached to? Right? Are they doing any good at all? And I'm working so hard and I don't seem to be seeing the results of my work. Right? And not in the way that you want to, maybe. All right. And then the sense that, where is it? As though the construct of reality is disconnected from the instrumentation with which you would drive it. And the fact is I think they're saying that is true. That reality as we know it is disconnected from the instruments that we would drive with, which is our mind, right? Which is our logic and our analysis. That's not meant to be the guiding force of our reality, of our life. Yeah. All right. And then they go on to say, and we speak to this, the knowing concern of the mind of humanity. So they're speaking to all of us, to the collective, to our collective consciousness. We speak to this in friendship, in guardianship, in the trust you have that may form a bond between us. And I think they mentioned this because they're talking about fear. And they're acknowledging the fact that there is the natural tendency for us to doubt that anything is going to work, because of the fact that has been our experience, because we've been living from the mind. So they're saying here, we're speaking to you in friendship and guardianship, in the trust that you have that may form a bond between us. They're trying to say, just extend us your trust. Let's move through this and listen, and they're basically saying, they're putting a claim on that trust, saying, let's talk about what really causes this. All right, they say, we settle in your hearts a destiny to perform. And that destiny means to express ourselves, to express the truth in us, right? A destiny to perform. And why they say perform is that when we are on earth, the main thing we are supposed to be doing is expressing the divine spark that we are, that each of us is a unique aspect or element of the divine, of divine consciousness, that we all have a different little piece of the divine in us. And the goal is to take that divine aspect of source and to play it out into a bunch of different scenarios and see what we do. And we have to embody and be it and feel it and be like, okay, I am this divine piece of source. What am I going to do when you throw me into all these different contexts? How will I react? And that's how I'm going to know myself. And I'm going to know what my piece of the divine feels and how I encounter and how I respond. And that's the chore. That's what we're meant to be doing. And it's a performance. Like we're literally like on a stage doing this, being my beingness. Like you're meant to be out there doing you as much as you can do you. Like that's what we're supposed to be doing. So we settle in your hearts a destiny to perform, right? A sense of who you are and will be. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, who we are and who we will be. They say your reality conforms to this not knowing, the sense of self and feeling, the performance of, and then they say the sense of your reality conforms to this not knowing. And then they say the sense of self and feeling, the performance of who you are, cannot abide to the prayers of a mind that follows only what it guards in its rear view mirror. So in other words, they're saying our job of being here is to be our divine self. But that performance of being our divine spark cannot happen if the only thing we're following is in our rear view mirror. That our job is to be here and to manifest. We can't do that effectively, to manifest a reality that is our inside playing out in front of us. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But we can't do it if we're looking in the rear view mirror trying to create from something that has no physical substance. We have to be focused forward into the now, creating from the now. So, and that's what this sentence is trying to tell us. They say that basically we're looking in our rear view mirror and trying to create from there, and it doesn't work. The constructs of your thinking are a limitation, a bondage. Super interesting, and that's a theme that goes through this, a bondage. A reality that exists, however you may find it, as something that finds no guidance in the truth of who you are. In other words, it doesn't come from the heart. This beholds you in the semblance of one who seems to be teaching. In other words, we think we're controlling, directing our lives, making plans, right? We seem like we're on top of it, but is in fact one who is merely unbinding the truth and the harmony that exists already in the heart that is within you. In other words, we are turning away from the answers, right, which are already inside of us. We're turning away from our own answers, and we're standing out there pretending that we've got everything in control, when in fact we're not listening to the only expert in the room, which is inside of us, right? Yeah. All right. So then they say, so then they go on to say, yeah, that's it. Okay. They say, we hold you in the context of not knowing. So this is when they're trying to say, okay, here it is. Here is what it is to be in the state of not knowing. We hold you in the context of not knowing. We hold you and guard you in the sense of self as adrift and free, flowing, in the harmony that rides within you. The blessings that conform to this existence will be found here, not in the mind frame and the concepts and the extension of your knowing. So they're saying all the blessings, all the good stuff, everything you want is available to you when you are in the context of not trying to figure it all out all the time, when we're in the state of adrift and free flowing in the harmony that is from inside of you. And I know there's this complexity in this, because they're like, okay, well, what about, like, I still have to pay for my card tabs. Like, I still have to, like, you know what I mean? There's stuff in life we have to do, but they address that. So, but for now, we kind of stop at we're starting with the general concept of how we're trying to shift. So first they say, okay, all the good stuff is happening for you in the now, right? This is that whole really expanding on the concept of living in the now. Why do we have to do it? Because the now is where we access the material that we can create with. All right. And then they go and they say, okay, comparing or contrasting to that now, they say, we hold you in the bondage of familiarity, in the bondage of what has formed you. The sense of self as being honored for your knowledge, the sense of self as having been called into the task of the doing and performing based on what you calculate and know. So saying this is where we usually are. Rather than leading from the heart, we're in the space where we feel like knowledge is where it's at. Like the more we know, the smarter we are, the better off we're going to be, right? That's where we usually sit. And that's what reality usually means, what we honor, right? They're saying that that we are honored for our knowledge. The sense of self as having been called into the task of the doing and the performing based on what you calculate and know. The memory of life as having been dictated by the contracts and endowments of science. So we're looking to, by science, they're not dishing on science. Like science is awesome. They're really referring here to like expertise, to the experts, how we are dictated. What we choose is dictated by other experts, right? They tell us what's good for us and we do it. The constructs and endowments of science, the awareness of the reverence that has been given to the task of understanding, as though this is the formation that guides humanity, as though this is the foundation of civilization, as though this is what will save you. So that is where we put our faith and our trust, is in knowledge and science. That's where, as a culture, as humanity, like throughout the world, like more, maybe there's certainly some cultures more than others. There's some that are very, very, very like this. And there's others that are less like this. But pretty much everywhere, there is this feeling, this belief, like real belief, that it is knowledge and science and all of that is going to save us. That is the answer. That is what we have to trust and put our faith in. Our faith is there, right? And they go on to say, it shall not. It is a construction based on falsehood and false premise. This idea that we have to put our faith in it, right? That's the falsehood and false premise. It is a construction based on observation, which is limited. So in other words, it's a thing we come to through our human side, not our divine side, right? It's through observation of through our eyes, through our physical senses. This is how we're receiving it. We're not in tune. We're not receiving it with our spiritual senses. So, and that's limited. They're saying it's not that those are bad, it's that that's a limited way to perceive and receive information. It's a construction, and think about that, like scientific observation. We hold that up as being the gold standard for how to understand something, we have to observe it. It has to be repeatable, right? We have to be able to say, if I do this, I get this undoubtable result. And that is then knowledge, right? That's scientific observation, that it has to be observable and repeatable. And they're saying, yeah, that is an observation which is limited, that doesn't embody or include all of our major senses, right? Our spiritual senses, our spiritual awareness. It doesn't make space for it. It's limited. They say it is a construction which is inherent. Here's the last, this is a big one here. It's a construction which is inherently tormented by the followership of those who are not questioning. So what does this sound like, right? Followership who isn't questioning. It sounds an awful lot like organized religion has been in the past. So humanity has been in the process of moving away from organized religion. We're like, oh, look at that, where we're supposed to be believing what they're telling us, what these spiritual leaders are, like what the Pope is saying or what the priest is saying, that we're supposed to have, we're here, and in order to connect to our truth, we have to go through them. And then, that's where we're supposed to get our guidance. We're not supposed to find it ourselves. Like we've been trying to move away from that for hundreds of years, right? Trying to move to a place where we feel like we can have our own truth and we can come up with our own understanding. But rather than coming to ourselves, we just took it away from the priests and the Pope, and then we gave it to science. And we said, okay, I'm going to follow science instead. I'm going to take all the authority that I should give myself, and I'm going to give it to experts, and I'm going to follow what they say is good for me, right? So that's what they're saying here, is that it's a followership that is not questioning. That is the inherently tormented. That's the underlying problem, is that we've given away our trust and our faith, and we've given it to something that is outside of ourselves. That is the core issue that we're dealing with. Wow, right? Yes, science is a new religion. We accept expertise rather than our own guidance. Yeah. And you're saying, of yourself, you can do nothing. With your whole self, you let go of the mind that is mine and embrace the mind that is, and owned by no one but the whole. Yes, love it. And Christine is saying, whoa, hit home. Yeah, super cool. So, all right. So we go on and they say, and I feel like that is just such an important concept that we just covered right there. That idea that we have to become aware of it, of how often we accept another person's expertise rather than tuning in for ourselves and saying, is this good for me, right? How do I feel about this? And not that there's not a role for that, right? There definitely is, that we can't, that there's a certain amount of like learning and truth that we discover about how the world works and that we uncover through science and through learning, right? Like we have to learn to read. We have to learn, to do math, like in order to do basic things in life. Like these are really, really valuable. But it's about the relationship. Who has the ultimate authority? Is it the head or the heart? That's what they're really trying to get at. They go on to say, and thus we guide you to the reference point of what matters, of the center self, of the soul within, of the sense of self as harboring the greatest gift of presence. The awareness that your heart does beat to the truth of your own knowledge, and all that rises within you can now conform to the presence and the reality that is passing in front of you. They're saying you have this ability right now, that you have the ability to live in the present moment, to create in the now, to manifest your own truth right this minute. All we have to do is get out of our own way. We have to stop letting this lead, and this will kick in, right? If we just let it, if we just trust it and follow it, that we already have this ability. It's just there. It's just dormant, right? Every single one of us can do this. They're saying that that it will conform to the presence and the reality that is passing in front of you and needs no claim on that frame of reference which has been designed within falsehood. So they're saying that idea that we have to rely on this is a falsehood. Yeah. They go on to say, and this is hard for us to understand because we don't trust what we get. We don't trust what we feel. Right? We doubt ourselves because so many times we have been trying to create things and it doesn't come to pass. So we feel like, well, I must not be good at this. I better rely on outside expertise. We think I must, because what I do doesn't seem to work. So they seem to have an answer. They seem sure of themselves. I'm going to follow what they say instead. Right? And that's how we do it. Right? It's when you really look at it, it's kind of mind blowing. Yeah. They go on to say, we say the claim that lands within the frame of mind and mindscape. It's not that it's not useful, right? So they're saying that it's not that the mind isn't helpful and that science isn't helpful, because it is, right? And knowledge is very helpful. They'll say it plays a part, a role, a dance which you have made, but it comes as servant, not to be served. Now, this is a huge one. How does the mind become a servant? Right? It's supposed to support, that you're supposed to feel with the heart. What is it that I want? What feels joyful to me? And I will tell you, that is how I make just about every decision in my life. What feels joyful? Is there joy in that? Where's the joy? That's how your heart speaks. So you could know nothing. I did this with a friend of mine, Wendy, if you're watching. We were talking about channeling and about feeling into the heart. And she was thinking about going on a trip. And I said, okay, name 2 places you're thinking of. And she named those 2 places. I said, okay, take the first one and feel into your heart and just feel, does it feel joyful? You don't know anything about this place. Does it feel joyful? Feel into it. And we did the second one. And I happened to know about this place she was considering. I had been there and had an opinion about it, but I didn't tell her what it is. And I said, okay, feel the second one and just feel into your heart. Does it feel joyful? Which one feels more when you just feel it? Which one feels happier, lighter, more exciting? So she felt both ones. And she had a very distinct feeling that one was more joyful than the other. And then I shared with her my experience, completely backed up exactly what she was saying, that the one that was less joyful, that felt less joyful, was no fun. I had been there and it was not great. And so she felt it without having any, oh, you're here. Hey, Wendy. Yeah. Do you remember this conversation? Yeah. And so she was totally dead accurate without having any mind construction involved. And so then, if you're leading from the heart, you feel your joy, and then you take the mind and you say, here's my joy. Okay, mind, how do I create that? I have felt that this pathway feels joyful to me. So now, mind, please give me the guidance of what steps I have to take to manifest that. And that's where the mind and science and knowledge all come into play, right? But it doesn't start there. Mind isn't supposed to help you figure out what you want. Mind is supposed to come in service to the heart, which tells you what you want. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool, right? All right. So it comes as servant, not to be served. It comes as gifted. So in other words, it's wonderful. It's a gift. To have the mind is a gift. It's been gifted to us to help us create in this complex world. We need it, right? It's a wonderful thing. But it comes to be used in the service of the heart. The heart must play your name. I love that they don't say your name or speak. They play your name. Joyful, right? Joy. It's supposed to come from joy. The heart must guide you, must serve you, must be the instrument of choice. Like, so beautiful. Yeah. They go on to say, within it harbors a distrust formed in the reality of being human, which is that all you have planned for often turns to dust, and fear settles in the hopes. So this is exactly what we were talking about, that okay, we have this ability. Why do we turn away from our heart? Right? It's we are born into the context where we're thought we have to create from the mind. And so we don't create from the heart. We start doing things with logic. We start doing things by analysis, and then they don't work out. And it creates fear for us. So we turn further and further away from the heart and more toward the mind. Right? It's like a one-way path where the more fearful we get, the harder we cling on to that steering wheel, and the more we try to steer as opposed to float. Like the opposite of our instinct is to let go. Like letting go feels like if I let go, nothing's going to happen, right? That's the feeling. As opposed to if I let go, everything's going to happen, right? It is so against how we are conditioned. Yeah. And you're saying, love this. Awesome, Christine. Alma said, love that. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is just deep and very helpful. All right. They say fear settles in the hope. So we become fearful. We fear that whatever we try isn't going to work, and it disempowers us. It's like they said in that first page. It is the culmination is disempowerment. Yeah. So, and the guardianship you have claimed on the turn of life and prospect, you wish to be made more in control of that which exists. So you feel like the guardian of your life, like you are given this opportunity to have a life. And your job, as they said, is to express this divine spark that is you, to create a life that reflects you, right? And so you have claimed this guardianship, like this responsibility to be you, right? And so you wish to be, because it's not working, you're like, oh my gosh, that nothing is turning out the way I planned. So I better control. I must not be controlling hard enough. I must not be doing it right. We question ourselves. We start to be made more in control of that which exists, to cling tighter to the instrument of guidance, right? To hold that harness more fully, to feel is the solution, to hold it more fully, we think is a solution that will unfold, right? To be made into the construction of the mind, to make a plan and find it to play exactly. That's what we want. We think if I just plan perfectly, then nothing will surprise me and it will all work out the way I'm expecting, right? Right, to find it plays exactly as you have made. This you may feel is the way forward. To find your manifestations more guided, more real, right? The only way to do it is to just like force it, right? That's the way we got to make it happen, which is so much work, by the way, right? That is so much work to do that. All right. And they go on to say, and we say that the folly of the day is to count upon your planning and feel that they are made in divine prospect, when in fact, whatever is claimed by the mind itself is waylaid, misshapen, misguided, right? It lacks the truth and the integrity of what is you within it. So they're saying this is the big mistake, is that we keep thinking we have to lean harder into the mind. And they said that anything we form from there, we might feel like we're manifesting as hard as we can and we're trying to move into the vortex or whatever we're trying to do, right? That we're thinking about, I got to control my thoughts, like only think happy thoughts. Like that's the thing, right? We're doing. And they're saying, nope, whatever comes from the mind is waylaid, misshapen, misguided, because we have not first checked into the heart. Right? We might be trying to create something that we don't even want. Like you might be thinking that boy, what I really, really want is this particular kind of job. And the only reason you think you want it is because you think it represents financial security. And once you get into it, you might discover that you hate it. I cannot tell you, when I was working as an executive coach, how many Ivy League grads I would see who graduated with impressive degrees, who end up working at a video game company in a closet somewhere with no windows and a life that stinks, right? And how hard did they work to get there? Like so hard, right? These are people who are super smart, super here, that did all the right things, checked all the right boxes, and have the dream job that they wanted to manifest so badly, and now they are miserable, right? And literally, windowless closet, like coding all day, right? Misery. So, and it's not just coding. I mean, they might be doing marketing or whatever it is that they're doing, but the point is that it's a space of disconnection and not even sunlight. Do you know what I mean? Like sad, like really sad. And yeah, so, and that's the culmination. Like that's not, so you think you want this thing, but if it's not coming from the heart, you're going to get it. If you get it, right? Even if you do all the things you're meant to do, it's going to take you to a place you don't want. So it's just, yeah, it's misshapen, waylaid, misguided. That's what they're trying to say, right? Of all ways of knowing that are human, and here's a big one, that are in bondage. So this is, and they've mentioned this twice now, bondage, slavery, they've mentioned this twice now, right? Boom. They say that are claimed by the greater powers that overrule yourself. So this is saying that we are giving away our control over our life, which is supposed to come from the heart, and we're giving it away to an unknown expert, to the cultural beliefs of what we're supposed to want, what we're supposed to desire, right? Of somebody else's knowledge. And that we're letting that greater power overrule ourself. And so we're living from that and trying to create a life that may not even be something we want. And that's what they're trying to show us here. And this is like so pervasive in the world, right? And then maybe people judge themselves because they're not on the rat track, you know, that they're not out there trying to make this thing that they don't want. And you're saying, I was there looking for security. Yeah, now I look for joy in all I do. That is so awesome. That is it. And that's the path of growth for us, right? That's what we're trying to move toward in every way. You're saying, I had a dream a while back where I was told to remember and be as I was when I was a little child. Oh, that is so great. As I thought back to that time, I realized I looked at everything with positivity. Is that what they're saying? Yeah. I think it is. And I think if it is that frame of reference, that positive, think about it as a child, you do what is joyful. I remember just recently I was watching on YouTube this short of a mom trying to teach her her little girl to cook. And all she showed was a little girl learning to crack an egg. That was the goal. And she showed her over a period of time, like as the little girl got older. So she started really, really young, and you can tell she aged at least several months, if not a year. And she would show her every time cracking the egg. And the little girl and the mom just sat there very patiently and let the girl do her thing. And she would crack, and the egg would come out and it would ooze all over her hands, and she'd be playing in the ooze, and she'd be picking off the little pieces of the egg. So she'd take like 5 minutes to crack the egg, and the mom just let her do it. And she's learning, right? She's following her joy. Her joy is like, ooh, this is oozy. Feel it. Like, wow, it feels so crazy on my fingers, you know? And by the end, she's like a pro. She's like, crack, boom, done. Like she's learned. But the point is that the mom let her find her joy in this process. Let her discover the joy of cooking as the experience of it, right? The tactile sensation. It's the working with physical things, you know? It's that idea. So it's the joy. And it is, and being in that flow of saying, okay, I'm going to experience my life from a place of joy. And when I find something interesting, I'm going to stop and pet the dog, or, you know, or poke the, whatever it is, you know, I'm going to live in that joyful place. And I think that is that positivity that you're feeling. I would describe that as where's your joy? Yeah, I think that as a kid, we don't even think anything of, you walk by a mirror as a kid, and a kid will look past a mirror and immediately stop and make faces at themselves and just laugh at their own ridiculousness. You know, there's no sense of like, I shouldn't be doing that, right? I've got to hurry up and go, you know, drive the carpool or whatever it is. So yeah, it's that living in joy. Yeah, and you're saying, I've tried to force it. It doesn't work. Yeah, good point. Yeah, for sure. It doesn't. And then it's saying, feeling sad for my children and those that are taking jobs that are painful just because they need money. Yeah, absolutely. And a child comes in playing from intuition. Yeah, I agree. And I think that part you were saying about that the feeling sad for our, you know, for kids that are taking jobs that are just out of, you know, that are not fun. And I think there's a certain amount, like when we're trying to get started in life, like there may be a time and a place where there's a reality of like, I got to pay the rent and this is the job that's available to me. And I think if you come into it with the context of like feeling into the heart of what you are, where your joy is, recognizing that on the path to your joy, you may need to take the job that is not your favorite job. Like there may be a place to get there, that on the path, there's the practical concern of like, okay, I need income for a little while I'm trying to manifest my joy. But I'm not doing this out of fear. I'm doing this out of the joy of the knowledge of where I'm headed, right? This is a stepping stone on the path to my joy, as opposed to I'm taking this job because I'm afraid. And that's the difference. Because there are times like we are still living in a reality where people have rent. and I know many, many people that on the path to doing their life's work, on the path to doing what they love to do, they took an interim job. And then unknowingly, somehow magically, it was that interim job that connected them with the business partner, with the new thing that was going to lead them in the right direction. So we sometimes create through things that we don't see the end. And that's part of being in flow. Is okay, if you feel like if something pops up in front of you and someone you're needing something and someone pops up and says, hey, I have this job you can do for a while if you want to, that maybe that's there for a purpose. If that is of service, even if it's not your end all be all, maybe it's the pathway that you go on, divinely guided, without seeing the outcome, without knowing the outcome, that is the path that leads you to the exact thing that you want, right? To your heart. If you are following your heart, then trust that everything is of service, Yeah. All right. So then, So then they go on to say the bondage. The bondage part is this idea that we are giving away our own autonomy, authority, our own sense of trust in ourselves. We're giving it away to expertise, to someone else who often doesn't actually have any expertise. All right, they go on to say, it sits within the construct of a culture. So this is our culturally, this is all around us. This is what's held as being wise and what's held as being the truth. A way of saying and being and doing that has no reference to what is the truth of you. It is founded in beliefs and concepts that are towering over the individuality of the soul and its prospects. So they're really using words here to really bring to mind, to give us a visual feeling of how powerful these influences are, of how hard it is to turn your back on them. How hard is it to turn your back on what is practical? How much judgment will you get if you take a path that society doesn't condone, right? If everyone is telling you should be doing this, right? You got to be doing this. And you're saying, you know what? My heart says no. How much judgment will you get from that? That is that towering over the individuality and the soul in its perspective. Right, in its prospect. So we have to be aware of what we're up against. As you are trying to step out of this, be aware of the pressures that exist out there to try to push you back into conforming with the mind. Yeah. And you're saying, oh my gosh, this has become one of my favorite messages and your guidance, thank you. You're saying, I love when the angels tell us it's okay to have fun. Me too. Yeah. And you're saying the heart is the light that guides us in darkness and creates the unknown path. Yes. Oh, how beautiful. That is great. Yeah, absolutely. And Mike is saying, I love this, Anne. Thank you. You're so welcome. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that is really beautiful. I love that. The heart is the light that guides us in darkness and creates the unknown path. That's a beautiful one. Yeah. All right, let's go on. They say it shrouds you, right? So that it is founded in beliefs and concepts that are towering over the individuality and of the soul and its prospects. It shrouds you and clouds you and disfigures your concept. So it confuses us, right? Shrouds, clouds, get that idea that it makes it really, really hard for us to find our way back to our heart. They say, thus, we say the way of transformation. And here's what's amazing, by the way, you guys. When I was listening to the recording, so frequently when we are at retreat, there will be things that happen in nature that are bringing in specific spirit elements. There'll be things in nature in terms of what is their meaning, their spiritual meaning. How are they showing up at that moment? And during this whole recording, you can hear the sound of frogs in the background, which is the only recording that has the sound of frogs in it. What are frogs symbolic of? Transformation, right? So here they're saying, thus we say the way of transformation. It's so cool. Picture yourself right now, the soundtrack of frogs in the background. Thus we say the way of transformation and completion is to set aside those dialogues internal. The way you planned and formed your life your way, to set them down and to make the fullness of your day, of your life, of your reality come to terms moment by moment. So this is the how-to, right? Set down your plans, right? The way that you planned and formed your life, what you thought your way was, to set that down and to make the fullness of your day And what I love about that, the fullness means presence, right? To be in presence, to have when you're having a full day, it means you're there. You're not drifting off, thinking, double thinking. You're present. It makes your day more full. The fullness of your day, of your life, of your reality. Come to terms moment by moment in the capture of the day, right? When we are present, we capture the day. We capture the potency of the day, right? In the flowing and fluidity of presence, relying not on what you planned, but only on what you play. How awesome is that play on words, right? Not what you planned, but what you play. So it's really getting into this idea that we have to be in the flow, in the heart, in the joy, letting the heart lead. Yeah, so awesome. So awesome. All right. Then they go on to say, we hold you in your hearts, dears. We hold you in the complexity of these notions, in these thoughts. They're recognizing as they're talking about this, that this is confusing. This is deep. They're saying, we hold you in the complexity of these notions. They're saying, yeah, we know this is a lot to wrap your head around. They say, for fear does rise within the context of not knowing. So they're acknowledging, I love that they're saying that even in this conversation, fear can come up because they're talking about really complex stuff and we might not feel like we fully get it. And that brings fear into us. And they're saying, hey, we see your fear. So I think this makes me feel very seen on this part. They're saying we hold you in the complexity and we feel your fear. Your fear does rise in the context of not knowing. They're saying there is within the self the sense that you must rise to the challenge. You must make plans. You must make way. You must be prepared. And this is where we beat ourselves, where we're like, I have to do better. I have to try hard. We judge ourselves, right? That we say, I got to do it. I got to show up. And we do, but only after we figure out what we actually want from the heart, right? They say, we said that we must make way. You must be prepared. And they say, and fear, yes, does lay here. It lays right in there, right in that sense that we got to be prepared. We got to make way. We got to try harder. They say, we hold you in this knowingness, accepting this graceful presence of your light. And that's beautiful, right? Here they're saying, we do not judge you for this. They're saying we hold you in this graceful presence of your light. They're saying everything that you do is divine. Even you spinning in circles in your fear, that is beautiful. You spinning in circles is just as beautiful as you following your hearts. They're saying there's no judgment here that we do this. They are acknowledging that this has been the path that we have been on. They're recognizing there's wisdom to be gained from what we've been doing. They go on to say, for it does say to itself, I am fearful. This is your soul saying, I am fearful. I am fearful. I wish to have the knowingness. I wish to know where I am guided in advance so I may be prepared. I wish to have at my side all the resources I require. I wish to feel barricaded into my safety where all that is cannot affect me. And so they're really just giving us a great big hug and saying, we see you. We see what it is to be fearful and to be human. And they're being compassionate with us, right? They go on to say, we say that should we comply and provide all that you would require. So if they were to do that for us, give us everything we want, there can be no growth for you. The sense of self is always protected, as always in the salve of all that you require. The salve is think of it as like comfort, right? The comfort of all that you require with no conflict and no construction of difficulty. Puts you in a place of absolute peace. And within that space, there is no difference, there is no challenge, there is nothing to conform to. There is no method by which you can extend yourself to embrace this life and discover who you are. So I think that paragraph kind of speaks for itself. It's basically if we really were able to do that, if we were able to plan everything to within an inch of its existence, and everything turned out exactly as we planned, and we really could do that, then we would never grow. Because the whole point is for us to be in flow and to be surprised by what comes towards us. And we can either do that by planning like crazy and then having everything not work out and be super disappointed and sad and then feel like we're failures. Or we can just live in the now and let life come towards us and then respond in the moment and say, wow, this is interesting. What do I do with this? And they both give us the same outcome. But we are moving, and this is what the shift is. We are moving from the space of living in that sense of fear and disappointment, trying to control with the mind. And we're trying to move into the space of living in the now and the present, letting life rise to meet us, having been manifested from the heart. So having it rise to something we actually want, as opposed to something we just thought we want or we were told we wanted, right? And then dealing and working with that, manifesting in the moment. Like that is what we're meant to do. That's what we're trying to move into, right? Yeah, and they say it right now. They say, thus the challenge of performance in this existence is to live in flow. The challenge of the performance, which means how do you be your full self? How do you express this divine light that you are, is to live in the now, right? To live in flow, to approach this life as a new discovery, as a new puzzle that must be played each and every day, to see within it that your guidance comes. This is awesome. To see within it that your guidance comes in the process of the performance, right? That's huge. That the instructions, that the methods, that which you require will be made available upon the discovery of the need, not in the anticipation of it. That's like, if I could drop my mic, I would drop it on that one. That would be like the mic drop moment right there, because that is so like, oh my gosh. So let's just talk about it for a second, because I think it is so important. So this is that idea. Your guidance comes in the process of the performance. In other words, we cannot in our minds prepare and align and get all the resources. We can't do it because there is no plan that survives contact with reality. And the best that's going to happen is we're going to meet it and we're going to adapt in the moment. And that's the best thing that'll happen, and make the best of it, right? But when we're doing that, we're always working from what does it say, with having just fallen down, you know what I mean, rather than standing in our moment, in our power, and being like, okay, what is reality going to bring to me today? If we're just working and planning to adapt all the time, we are always starting from the place of having been thrown out of, like, it's like we're trying to make up for something. Do you know what I mean? We're starting from behind. Whereas if we just come into the moment in the sense of like loving, graceful presence of like, yay, what is showing up for my life today? What should I make of this day? Like, then we're coming with both our feet firmly planted, ready to create from this beautiful state of awareness. And here's the magic moment. They're saying your guidance. So this is the whole thing, the whole plan that we've been striving to get, that guidance only comes in the process of the performance. So it's like if you try to plan it in advance, there's no guidance available. And that is the truth that I hear from the angels all the time, that they say that if you were to try to tune into your guidance and say, please tell me what to do, I will do anything you say. Please tell me, please tell me. I will be so loyal and so faithful. I will do exactly what you say. And you will hear crickets. You will hear nothing, because it doesn't work that way. Because we are the captain of the team. We are the captain of our whole team of guides and angels who are here to serve this life that we are in. So this life is a construction that we all share, that you and your team of guides and angels, all of them are equally invested in your life. And you happen to be the team captain by default, by the fact that you are the one in the body. So you are the one that has to choose, because you're the only one who has the heart. So you have to feel. So this is like the compass. You're the only one who has it. You have to feel. That's the only way to express your divine spark. And then once you do that, once you use your magic tool and you're the team leader and you tell everybody this is what the magic tool says, then zoom, they're all there, right? They're all like, great, let's go. And they're all right behind you, helping you. And they're saying, hey, you can do it better if you go this way. Or here's 5 resources you're going to need. Let me bring them to you, right? That's what happens. So your guidance comes in the process of the performance. You have to choose and start. Choose and start. Doesn't have to be the perfect thing. Doesn't even have to be the right thing. Just choose and start, right? Follow your heart, choose and start. And then all that guidance can show up in the process of the performance. But if you're sitting there trying to figure it out, they can't help you, because the heart hasn't engaged yet. You haven't consulted your truth. You haven't consulted the magic compass. Yeah. And then they say that the instructions, that the methods, that which you require, everything, right, will be made available upon the discovery of the need. In other words, I love the phrase that don't meet your problems halfway, right? Don't try to anticipate what your problems are going to be and make plans for those problems, because by the time you get there, those probably won't be your problems. Like, you will have other problems, and you have put all this energy into planning for problems that never appear. So they're saying that all of your instructions, your methods, your means, everything you need will show up at the discovery of the need. Where does that happen? In the moment. In the moment, everything you need will be made available, is what they're saying. It's so hard for us to wrap our heads around this. It is so hard for us to believe this, to have faith in. I am guilty, right? I am the one. I have a really hard, and I do this. Like, a lot of my life, I live this way. And it's still, when I hear this, I'm thinking that's really hard. Like, I think it's really hard, because it just feels so much like, really? Is it going to show up? But it does. It shows up in my life. It just does. And it's just hard for us to wrap our heads around it. Yeah. That which you require will be made available upon the discovery of the need, not in the anticipation of it. Yeah. So it's really, really hard to sit down that conditioning, but that is what they're asking us to do. They say the fluidity of your form, the looseness of your grip. So how lightly can we hold on? Can we say, okay, guys, I'm just going to trust. I'm just going to live in the moment. I'm going to trust that things are going to show up. My job is to consult the compass, right? Your ability to move with the flexibility of a dancer, to sense yourself to sense yourself as light on your feet, as transparent, as though all you are can move with grace from one thing to the next. So in other words, they're not saying that when you do this, that your life is going to be perfect. It may be that you go out into the world and you're following your heart, and your heart leads you right into a fender bender. And you may be like, well, that stunk. But it may be that in the process of doing that fender bender saved you from something much worse that was going to happen down the way. Or it could be that you happen to have the fender bender with someone who becomes, a lifelong connection. It could be that fender bender releases some karma in the body that you were totally unaware of. And in that jarring, it releases it, and boom, you're healed. And you didn't even know it. You just don't know. But when you're following the heart, it manifests through you. Yeah. And so it's that idea of just letting life flow. Like something happens, fender bender happens. You're like, yeah, okay, moving on. It's not the end of the world. I'll move past that. And when you have that attitude and you're able to flow like that, then things don't affect you because you're willing. It's like your attitude, your eyes are open to seeing the easy way through. Yeah. Light on your feet, transparent, as though all you are can move with grace from one thing to the next without that friction, right? It flows through you, around you, among you, and you are of it. So you're of reality. And this is huge in this next sentence. They say, you are of it. You are of the world. They say, and all the world comes to your service. So that's what it's meant to be. We're meant to live in the moment, that you are of the moment, and all the world comes to your service because you're emitting from your truth, right? All the world conforms to your knowing, to your desire, to your import. It all comes to your calling, for you are it, and it is of you. And this is that oneness. Like, what is oneness? This is it. So it's oneness with each other, but it's oneness with reality. It's becoming a true manifester. It's living from your heart, right? Expressing and trying to bring all of your presence, the fullness, right? Capturing the fullness of the now by being there and letting ourselves manifest our truth into the moment. Yeah, for you are it, and it is of you. And your essence becomes fluid. And here you are and found your worth. They're saying this is it. This is the goal that we're trying to get to, right? Your essence becomes fluid, where you are in the state of perfect balance in terms of with your reality, where you are flowing out into your reality and your reality is coming back to meet you. And it's this beautiful divine expression, reception, expression, reception, right? It's this fluidity. And here you are and found your worth. Because this is how you truly experience yourself on earth. This was a long one, you guys. Oh my gosh. This was a really long one. But it was a really long channeling. And then you can imagine right after this, they zipped into this healing that was just, yeah. So anyways, I'm so glad to be able to share this with you guys. I feel like it's deep. Yeah, breathing in, breathing out. Everything is that. Everything is that breath, right? It's that relationship to exhale, inhale. You're saying this works in relationships as well, not forcing a relationship that is no longer working and you feel it. So true, Linda. Isn't that hard, but so true? When we don't get attached to keeping it or holding on to it, we just let it flow. Yeah, you're so right. I should pin this message to listen to it weekly and remind myself. Me too. Saying thank you so much. You are so welcome. Saying listening to you, I hear carried and funded by love. My boss's intuition, yes. Guided, guarded, protected. The infinite power that built me, heals me, yes. Abundant and grateful. Thank you for sharing, showering, connecting us with each other and our magic compass. You bet. Oh, so awesome. Sherry says, yes, really hard to wrap one's head around, but not hard to wrap one's heart around. Great point, Sherry. Thank you. Lisa said, I had that exact experience with a being rear-ended last spring. Oh, cool. I wonder what good thing did it lead you to, Lisa? Or do you know? Do we even have an awareness? Was it one of those things where you're like, I just trusting the process? Yep. It is hard to believe, yes. Your trip to Iceland, good example of this. Very true. Very, very true. Yeah, so many moments where it's like, wow, here's an amazing thing that just showed up in my life. I'm just going to flow, let it happen. Yeah. All right. And then, yeah, fantastic. Awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being part of this. I really appreciate you guys sharing and having the conversation. I feel like this is really deep, and I really like it. It's not easy. These are not fluffy messages. I know it takes time from you and investment. Like, this is an hour and a half we spent together, and I recognize that this is a commitment that you guys make. And I know a lot of you guys are here every single week with these messages, and we are building something together, right? Every one of these messages, like my mom says, it's like Velcro in your brain. And every time we put that Velcro in, then the next one sticks, and the next one sticks a little bit more. And we grow as a collective as we're doing this. We have deeper understanding. And so I'm super, super grateful that you guys are that we're doing this together. It just has so much more weight, so much more impact. And I think that's why the angels are showing up in such a profound way for us. It's because we make the commitment to them. So, all right, thank you very much. Those of you who would like to join Soul Convergence, don't forget we start this Saturday. So, and I'm super excited to see all of you guys who have signed up. We're going to have an amazing, amazing journey together. Have a wonderful weekend, you guys. Sending lots of love, and I will see you next Friday live.